Welcome everyone to our weekly market update. I'm Hudson Santana from Santana Properties team. I have Emily Richarde, which is our operations manager from all the way from Philadelphia, and we have Derrick Lizzotte from all the way from Maine. Derrick is our director of marketing. So thank you for being with us, and we're hoping to give you some information about what's going on with the real estate market in our areas.
All right, well, I'll just jump right in. So we have information about the Miami market here as well as the Boston market because we serve both of those markets. In Miami, we're looking specifically at Brickell, Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, and South Miami. And we can see that the inventory was 3,417 properties, which is a decrease of 17% from 2019. So there's less listings on the market right now. The median days on market is 97, which is up 17% from 2019. The average sale price is 702, which is down 6% from 2019. And the number of sold properties is 633, which is down 13% from 2019.
All right, so let's talk about this for a second. Really interesting. Inventory is down 17%. I believe the last video that we did, inventory was down almost 30%. So we've definitely seen more houses coming on the market, but compared to last year, we're still 17% down. The very funny thing is that we have less properties on the market, 17% less, but the days on the market is exactly the same number up. So 17% more days on the market, which shows that properties are not selling. Even though we have less inventory, we're not seeing as many transactions. And then the price, I don't think it's that relevant. At 6%, it really doesn't affect much. Might be some specific reasons for it, but I think the more interesting fact here is the sold properties and showing that it's 13% less properties sold than last year. And one thing to keep in mind is since real estate transactions take anywhere between 45 to 90 days to happen, I think right now is when we're starting to see some results of the COVID-19 situation. But with more time ahead, that's when we're really going to start seeing the real impacts of this pandemic on the real estate market.
Yeah, so we have a gap now from last year, but we're expecting the gap to widen as it progresses.
Cool.
So for the Boston markets, we're talking about specifically about Arlington, Cambridge, Medford, Somerville, and Watertown. The inventory is drastically different from Miami. In those 5 towns, it's 248 properties on the market, which is down a huge amount of 38% from last year. Big drop. The median days on market is down 9%, and it's 21 right now, which is pretty quick. That's 3 weeks exactly. The average sale price is $988, which is up 8% from last year. The number of sold properties is 704, which is down 14% from last year.
Yeah, so a 30% inventory drop is huge. I mean, Boston's already known for a lack of inventory because of being such an old town and such there's so many zoning laws that prevent new developments. So, and again, any house that's built for over 50 years in Boston, it's very difficult to demolish and build something bigger and newer. So, but on a short inventory, having a 38% drop is it's huge. So I would definitely say if somebody is thinking about selling their house, it's not a bad time to think about it because you're really not competing with anybody.
Yeah.
We're already seeing last market, which is also incredible. 20 days on the market, 21 days on the market is nothing. Look at Miami market, 97 days, which is a more balanced market, if we could say that.
And both of those days on market kind of reflect why the prices are increasing and decreasing there.
Yeah. So, and the average sales price, again, it's up 8%. I don't think it's that much of a difference. It might be for some specific reasons. Maybe there were some, big prices that went up. Maybe a $10 million house was on the market and sold, right? It could be something specific that caused that. I don't think we're going to see. I think next month is when we're going to start seeing the results of the pandemic, because if you listed your house in March, this month through the end of this month is when you're going to see those closing happening. Yeah. But especially in the following month is when we're going to really see the difference. So, but overall, it really shows you how the Boston market is very strong and how there's really nothing available for sale.
Yeah, and we do see that there's a decrease in sold properties in both areas, but again, it's not super substantial yet.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily.
All right, so now we're comparing the number of active listings in all of those nearby Boston towns. We're comparing 2019 to 2020. So you'll see the thicker lines are the 2020 lines and the thin lines are the 2019 lines. So for example, Somerville is in green, and we can see there's a much higher amount in 2019. That thin 2019 line is way higher than in 2020. But for a lot of the other towns, the lines aren't that far apart.
Yeah, I mean, from what I can see here, the one that has the least difference is Arlington, then Watertown, but then we're already see. Oh, maybe I'm getting confused. Cambridge has Cambridge and Somerville is the ones that have the biggest gaps, and then Medford is the third one. So pretty interesting. But again, this is pretty evident of being affected by the quarantine. So we're not seeing as many properties going on the market because of what's going on.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting how, though, you can see the same towns kind of keeping pace with themselves. Like different towns haven't like completely dropped off. They're still close to their line from 2019, although there is a difference.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting. All right, and this is closings year to date by week. So obviously we're going to see these numbers continue to go up. And again, for these, the 2020 line is thicker and the 2019 line is that thin line of the same color. And similarly in the other one, Somerville has the largest gap, but it's also the highest one in general. Mm-hmm. So, and the other towns are still keeping pace with themselves.
And specifically this week, you can kind of see that the gap is starting to widen.
Yeah.
You think about it has to do with the weather, right? All the time of the year, but this is when the weather starts to get better. It's really like the spring is in, and then people are always ready to put their houses on the market for sale. So, but it's very interesting to see the big gap in Somerville.
All right, so let's go to look at each town specifically one by one. So these are our Arlington charts, and you can see this line for Arlington really isn't that extremely different in 2019 and 2020. The difference this week is 10, so not too bad. And then in terms of active listings, it was jumping around in 2019 quite a bit. In 2020, it's a pretty steady kind of a line, no big jumps up or down in Arlington.
Yeah, I mean, right now, as usual, Arlington is one of the towns with the least amount of inventory. Mm-hmm. So, the closings are trending very similarly, but this year we're definitely having, so right now there are 33 listings available compared to 45 last year. Right. So, the competition's much higher. The interesting thing about our team is that on the last 4 weeks, we're able to list one brand new condo pretty much every week. Mm-hmm. And every single one of them went under contract in the first few days.
In Arlington.
Yeah, but the one main interesting thing about that is that none of them had a single piece of competition. So we had the properties on 21 Teal in Arlington, East Arlington, was the only renovated townhouse in East Arlington available for sale. Then Unit 2 was the same, and actually didn't even hit the market. Somebody was showing Unit 1, saw Unit 2 and bought it. And then 69 Adams Street is the same thing. When it went on the market, there was not a single property competing with that at that level of renovation size and style. And then when Unit 2 went on the market, it was the same thing. They both sold within 2 days on the market.
Wow.
And you look at this week, there's only one project that was listed on the market, which is a property on Exeter Street. So again, it's just showing how low the inventory is. And again, if you think of how many people live in Arlington, if you have one property available for sale, no wonder that they're selling so quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But also they're getting replaced. Like it's so interesting how even it is. You know, places are going pretty fast, like you said, but they're getting replaced by, you know, maybe a 1-to-1.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly, I know it's a challenging time we're going through, everybody's going through, but it's certainly encouraging for sellers that, you know, if you own a property in Arlington and you were thinking about selling in the future, you might want to rethink your plans and really try to sell it now, because most likely things are going to, I keep saying it's the new normal, right? So it's going to go, you know, the quarantine is going to be lifted eventually. So things are probably trend back to kind of normal. But right now, you really wouldn't be competing with anybody. So if you were thinking about selling, you might really think about putting your property on the market now. And honestly, I would say with the buyers right now, if you were thinking about buying, there's also opportunities, because what I'm seeing is that the properties that are not going on the first or second week, they are not getting nearly as many showings, which creates an opportunity for a buyer. And because some of the sellers out there need to sell. So if you are a buyer and there's a seller that really needs to sell, and also you're not getting a lot of competitors looking at the property, you have an opportunity to go in there and try to put a lower bid, right? So just a really interesting time we're going through.
All right, so in Cambridge, again, we see these closing lines are not too far apart. They almost just about merged a couple of weeks ago, but now we're seeing that sharp uptick between the fourth week of April and this first week of May. Quite a jump there in 2019, and we're not seeing that same sort of pace in 2020. And then in terms of listings, we've got this, you know, growing amount in 2019, and our 2020 amount, it is going up from a few weeks ago, from mid-April, but it's again not keeping pace. With last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Only 74 properties available for sale in Cambridge. I mean, Cambridge is known worldwide, and the fact there's only it's nothing. Right, so it's really interesting to see. Again, another town that if you own a property and you were thinking about selling in the future, you might want to reconsider and do it now before other people put their homes on the market for sale.
Absolutely. All right, Medford was very interesting. So we see 2019 starting to separate from 2020 in the number of closings, but again, not very large difference. And then in the number of active listings, you see this sharp spike up, similar to some of the other towns between the end of April and the beginning of May, but we're not seeing that now, and we're really seeing a leveling out of the number of active listings in Medford right now.
Yeah, and again, if you watched our last video a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks by now, Medford, the mayor came up with a law that prevented in-person showings,
Yes.
which we saw a direct impact on the number of properties on the market. So a lot of people took their properties off the market which made a lot of sense, because if I can't have people come and see it, the odds that I can sell it are lower. But the interesting thing is since then, I believe about a week ago, they've lifted that ban, but we're still haven't seen difference. I mean, we pretty much have half of the inventory that we've had last year, which is super low. I mean, only 35 homes available for sale it's a very, very low number. Again, it's going to be interesting seeing in actually a couple months what the real impact of that is.
Yep.
One thing I would like to mention, sorry, I don't know if you can go back. One thing that I've noticed from experience is that multifamilies in Medford are going for a very big different number than they would go in the past. So if you own a property in Medford, especially a multifamily, you would be amazed of what these properties are going for nowadays. If you think about, again, I mentioned on the last video, in Somerville had a complete change on their zoning laws and their condo conversion laws. It basically, they basically took all the incentives from investors to invest in Somerville. Well, the next town over is Medford. And we've seen a direct impact on the prices of multifamilies, because now a lot of investors are jumping into that market. And on top of that, with the coronavirus in the past, we already had very low inventory of multifamilies. But now, I believe as of today, there's 2 multifamilies available for sale in Medford, and they're priced. There's 4. I take it back. But again, it's still a very low amount. So if you own a multifamily, that's the time, especially after what's going on with the economy, and probably you might not be receiving rent from a lot of tenants. It might not be a bad time to consider selling in Medford. The challenge with considering buying multifamilies in Medford is being able to find them. There's literally, there's only 4 available. So anyway, I think that market, it has a lot of, it's very promising.
All right, in Somerville, we do see these 2 lines really separating back mid-March, and the separation is definitely continuing in terms of the number of closings. And then still, 2019 is still far above 2020 in terms of the number of active listings. It's quite a big difference between 75 and 129 listings as of the first week of May.
Yeah, super interesting. So that's almost 60 less. What would that percentage be? So in Somerville, for closings, it's a pretty big difference, right? From 239 to 186. And then on the listing side, again, it's almost half of the listings available.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just really, really interesting what's going on in the market right now. Again, guys, I keep saying the same thing, but the real impact in real estate is going to show up in the next 45 days forward, because of how long it takes for a transaction to close.
All right. Now we have Watertown. So Watertown, the difference in closings isn't drastic. Still keeping pretty close. We had quite a nice uptick between the 4th week of April and the 1st week of May this year. 15 more were added, so that was a nice jump up. And then in terms of the number of active listings, we saw a similar jump up. There were 20 last week, and there are now 31 this week, which is a good little jump for us. Yeah. And most of those are condos.
Yeah, very competitive market, and just so interesting. Again, I don't know if you guys can put it in perspective, but 31 homes available for sale, including single families, condos, and multifamilies, is nothing. I mean, again, this to me shows how most likely prices are not going to be impacted that much.
Right.
Until we start seeing a lot more people putting their homes on the market, we're not going to be seeing a drop in price. If the trend continues this way, it's going to be quite the opposite. The most likely the prices are going to continue to go up because of the lack of inventory.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
All right, so next we have Coconut Grove. You can see that the number of active listings in Coconut Grove in 2020 has been less since the beginning of the year compared to 2019. It stayed pretty consistent in 2019 at that 180, and then is dipping a little bit in 2020. So much less listings, and interestingly enough, the number of closings has outpaced 2019. We have 42 closings as of this week and 29 last year. I'm sorry. Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. 29 last year. Thought I said the wrong number. So big difference. And this is an area where we have more closings this year than last year.
Yeah, I mean, it shows how strong the market in Coconut Grove is. The fact that, again, it's just such an interesting graph compared to the last year. But the fact that we already didn't have enough inventory in the Grove specifically. I mean, we're being very broad with these graphs. If we look at certain pockets of the market, as an example, if you're looking to buy a home in the Grove, a single family home, you know, with 4 bedrooms, 3,000 square foot plus, you know, between the 1.5 and 2 million, there's probably 1 or maybe 2 properties available for you to see, right? Inventory is already limited. When we go from a drop from 184 to 126, it shows that it's, you know, things are even less. And again, if you're looking in this area, it's not I mean, it's a phenomenal town to live in. It's just really difficult to find the right property. And now we're seeing that the price is, you know, with closings, more closings happening. Again, it's just showing how the market is very strong in the Grove. Certainly a good place to be if you're in South Florida.
A good place to sell too, apparently.
Yeah. Again, it just shows it's definitely a strong market, a good place for you to put your money. But then you see, right, you wonder if it's a reflection of what the neighborhood has to offer. Yeah. Right? A great downtown, waterfront, multiple marinas, multiple amazing restaurants, like very walkable, great parks, right? And again, easy access to the main highways and you know, Brickell and Miami. So the numbers clearly reflect that.
Yeah, and I think as, you know, the market changes and as our economy changes, people who have the ability to choose and to be more picky about where they want to live are still going to continue to do that, and going to want to pick better and better communities to live in, especially now that they're spending so much time at home. So
yeah, it's so interesting. I've been talking to a lot of people here in the Grove, and it's interesting because we're talking about the service industry. It's definitely the most affected by the coronavirus. But at the same token, when you think of people from, you know, California and New York, where you have really high taxes, and they were already moving to this area, now a lot of people are seeing that by being forced to work virtually through Zoom or other sites, they're seeing that they can do their work from other parts of the country. And with the high taxes, you know, from what I'm hearing from people is that, like, my friends are realizing that they can actually come and do the same thing that I'm doing, right? Like, I already know a lot of people that do that live here and work in New York. But now they think that a lot more people are going to make that jump because of what you get for, you know, comparing to New York, where here you're gonna get a beautiful house with a yard and garage, where over there you're getting a 2-bedroom apartment, right?
I have a friend that's actually doing that this week. He's starting to work in Boston from Maine.
Yeah, exactly. And then same thing with, and the other big factor is the weather, right? Like supposedly much more favorable weather. So again, it's just going to be so interesting to see what's going to have the biggest impact. Is it going to be prices going down because of the workforce and the service industry being affected, or people moving here after this virus is going to counterbalance the prices, right? So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to keep an eye out for. So now we can look at Coral Gables. We see that the number of active listings is also less this year as compared to last year in Coral Gables. We have 703 this year in May and 889, so that's quite a big difference. Mm-hmm. We also see that the number of closings is higher for 2019 as of this week, but it's just starting to kind of peak up the last couple of weeks. We were keeping pretty close pace with 2019 up until very recently.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it's, so far what these numbers are telling me is that, if you were to look today, but again, we have to keep in mind that the closings that we're seeing today, those properties went under agreement 2 months ago, 45 days ago, right? But if we were to just look at these two numbers, we're seeing that it's a much more balanced market, right? Because you have a lot less properties for sale, but the closings are trending pretty much the same, right? So you're meaning that like buyers have less options, and sellers are competing with less people, but the ratio is pretty good. It's pretty balanced comparing to Massachusetts, where it's completely unbalanced because you just don't have nearly enough inventory. Where here in Coral Gables, you see that we have a decent amount of inventory, and it's making the market pretty balanced. So this is great.
Interesting.
Anything you want to add, Derrick? Oh.
Yeah. So here are some of the statistics from our website. This is a chart, the same time frame as those other charts from January to this week. And this is just our website's organic users. It doesn't include any referrals from any social media or paid advertising or anything like that. But just to show you comparing month by month and week by week, you can kind of see how we slowly started to lose users on the site towards the shutdown. There was kind of a lot of uncertainty and panic going on. And then since the shutdown, people have been kind of adapting to this new normal, and it's slowly increasing in our users. And then you can actually see on the second chart, that is just people that are actually searching homes on our website. And that's definitely gone up a lot since the date of the Massachusetts shutdown. And it's actually up 40% this week. So it looks like buyers are definitely just starting to look more than they were looking a month and a half ago.
Yeah, I kind of about what I was saying before, right? There's first of all, none of us know what's really going to happen, right? We just hit over 30 million. I believe we just hit over 30 million people unemployed. I mean, I remember exactly that about a week ago it was like 26 million, right? But even if we count 26 unemployment, it's a huge number. But one thing to consider about homes is that since a lot of people, or most people, have been forced to stay home, one train of thought is that people are going to really appreciate their homes more, right? Or so a lot of people believe that they're going to value their home more, or valuing a house more than they valued before. Which means that a lot of renters might actually consider buying because they realize how important having a nice home is. Or a lot of people might consider selling their current home to buying something better. Or a lot of people might consider, renovating. I can speak for my wife and I. We're definitely talking about renovating the kitchen and doing some updates in the home, right? So it's just, again, it's going to be so interesting to see how people view real estate, right? Because this crisis is not a real estate crisis, but real estate is such like a focus because everybody's forced to stay home, right? It's kind of like if you had the thought of what if everybody was forced to stay at their office, right? You know, people would probably value their office a lot more, right? So if you're forced to stay home, it's just very interesting to see a year from now what the real effects of this is, right? Like whether prices are going to go down, prices are going to go up. To me, it just sounds like, you know, it feels like I think prices are going to stay stable. People are going to try to hold on to their property as much as they can, or they're going to be selling to upgrade. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think especially as companies realize that more people can work from home, you know, as they admit that people can work from home, a lot more people will choose that. And then they will need spaces that allow them to work from home better than maybe they were expecting before. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
And I mean, look at the three of us. This is a great example of, right? Like the three of us are in completely different states, servicing other state, right? Or two other states, and we're able to do our jobs at a high level. And I think that, again, because of the population being forced to be exposed to this, it's going to open up so many great opportunities, like for people that, you know, Derrick, like people in Maine that can now get a great job in Boston, right? And not have as the high cost of living as you would have if you had to live in Boston, right? Or vice versa. So yeah, it'd be interesting.
I want a yard. I'm like,
or the crazy amount of travel too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the travel again. That's why there's so many unknowns. I mean, clearly the real estate market in Boston is staying really strong. The real estate market in Miami, we're just seeing a drop in inventory, but that's a positive thing, I believe. So it's just we're gonna continue to do this. I hope that you that is at home watching us continue to follow us, and please, if you see this, please make some comments. If there's something that you'd like to see us talk about, please send us a message, make comments on the website or wherever you watch this from, and we're definitely going to pay attention and try to introduce this. And again, I appreciate your time. Thank you, Emily, for putting all these stats together for us. Thank you, Derrick, for all the work that you do and the website analysis. And again, have a great week, and we'll be doing this soon. Have a great day.